Okay, so in order to make these little sleeveless or fingerless rather gloves, it's pretty easy, and I'd say each glove takes about like an hour to make, so a total of 2 hours. And I start off by doing the main piece first, and then I do the ribbing after, just so it sets a little bit tighter at the wrist. And this is what they look like. I'm kind of obsessed. But I do really like the houndstooth. I think that I might brush it on the wrong side just to see what that looks like. And if it does look good, then they could technically be reversible. So I'm gonna try that at the end and show you guys, but I'll show you how to get started. So I used Wool Ease Origins yarn because it's 100% wool, and I thought that would be the warmest and would brush out the nicest too, just in case that looked good in the end. So you're gonna need a 6mm hook as well. And I'm gonna be using 2 colors. I'm gonna be using gray and blue. I already made the first one here, and it looks really good. I love these colors together. You obviously don't have to do 2 colors, but I am doing 2 colors for this tutorial. So if you want to follow along, please do. So you're going to start off with your base color, and that color is going to be the same color you use for the ribbing in the end. So just start off with that color and do a slip knot. And I started off with a chain 31. You can start off with any odd number chain. Just make sure the length of it goes around your whole hand. And I would just do it on the center part, or maybe even like the thumbs, so that you know it will fit all the way around. But there will be a thumb hole, so it doesn't really matter. I would just do the base here of your hand. So go ahead and chain 31 or any odd number to fit around your hand, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I went ahead and chained 31. And so to begin, you're going to skip your first chain that's next to the hook. So mine is right here, and I'm gonna go into this first chain here, or rather the second chain, and I'm gonna make 1 single crochet. And then in the next stitch, I'm gonna make 1 double crochet. So yarn over and make a double crochet. And then in the next stitch, I'm gonna make a single crochet again. And then a double crochet in the next. And you're gonna continue doing this until the end of the row. You should end off with a double crochet if you did it correctly. If not, just go back and redo it. It might be a little tricky using the wool yarn to go back, but I would recommend just going back while you still can. So go ahead and do this till the end of the row, but don't finish the last stitch. I'll show you how to change colors. Okay, so I got up to the last stitch here, and I'm gonna make my last double crochet. And you're gonna yarn over and pull through the first 2. But before you pull through the last 2, you're gonna do it with the gray color. You better shush. And then chain 1. And then make sure to cut the yarn you were just using, because you're gonna switch colors every row. And then you could turn your work. And then in the first stitch here, we're gonna make a single crochet, but we're gonna weave in our ends as we go because it gets really messy. So you could just hold the 2 strings on top of your hook, and then just pretend they're not there and make your single crochet as you normally would. And then you're gonna continue what you were doing down the rest of the row. You're gonna make a double crochet in the next stitch. And you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna leave the 2 strands right on top of the hook when you make your stitch so that they're hidden as you go. And you could do this up until any point, but I'm just gonna do it for like 4 more stitches, and you can continue going to the end of the row, and then you're just gonna change back to the blue color. Okay, so I got to the end here and we're just gonna make a double crochet like we did on the other side, but we're gonna finish it off with the blue color. And you can go ahead and cut that working yarn and then finish with the blue color. Chain one, turn your work, and then we're just going to repeat what we've been doing and weave in your ends as you go. So start with a single crochet and make sure the ends are on the hook, and just make your single crochet as you normally would. You're going to continue doing this for a total of 13 rows. So you're going to have 7 of the rows in blue and then 6 of them in the gray. So once you get up into that point, you could cut your yarn and fasten off, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so a little tip I like to give when weaving in the ends as you go is I really like to put the color that I'm working. So gray is going to be the color I'm working for this row. I like to put the gray tail end on top and then the blue tail end on the bottom, just so it matches up the stitches as you go. So when you make that first single crochet here, the gray will be on top and the blue on the bottom. And when you finish the stitch, you could see that the gray is on top, blue on the bottom, and it's going to be like that throughout as you continue weaving in your ends. And that way the color just matches better and you could see those weaved in ends much less. So I finally got to my last row and my last stitch. So once you get up to this point, I did mention to cut your yarn and fasten off, but we're actually not going to do that. There's an easier method. So all we're going to do is flip over our work. So to me, one side is more gray heavy and then one side is more blue heavy. I don't know if I'm just seeing things, but I'm kind of just realizing that now. But I like the way the blue side looks, so I'm going to flip that on the inside since that's going to be the right side. And we're going to begin sewing along the ends here, and we're going to leave some room for a thumb hole. So reinsert your hook into that loop, and we're going to chain one, and then match up the ends. And I usually like to use a stitch marker, but since the lines here are clear for the row, I like to just go off that. So you're gonna stitch mark the blue row together, the gray row together, the blue row together, and so on. And so we're gonna do the first 5 rows first, and then we're gonna fasten off. So you could reinsert your hook into that first blue row, and then go ahead and reinsert into that second corresponding blue row. And then you're gonna yarn over and slip stitch through all the loops. And now you're gonna do the same in the next row through the gray rows. Yarn over, pull through. And now you're gonna continue doing this 3 more times in the corresponding rows. So now I'm doing the next blue row. That makes 3. Next gray row is 4. And then lastly, that blue row, which is 5. Now we're going to cut our yarn here and fasten off. And now what we're gonna do is reinsert our hook. We're gonna skip a total of, I believe it's 4 rows. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So we're gonna skip 4 rows. All right, so you're gonna reinsert your hook and pull the yarn through. You're gonna chain 1. And then pull on the tail end a bit so that it tightens. And then into those same loops that you just went into, go back through with the loop, with the hook, and pull through to slip stitch 1 more time, and that will secure it. And now you're going to go and slip stitch through each corresponding row all the way through. So next is the gray row. Next is that blue row. Oops. Next is the gray row. And lastly is that blue row, but since we did a foundation chain in blue, it's technically 2 more rows. So get that first bit of the blue, and then you'll see there's 1 more here. Just try to get that loop there so it doesn't get lost. And then slip stitch. And it should be good now. What I want you to do is go ahead and chain 6 is the chain that I did for the ribbing. You could do a longer chain if you want a longer band around the wrist. But I'm gonna go ahead and chain 6. Okay, so now once you chain your 6, go ahead and actually turn the project inside out. You could take out your hook. This way we're working on the right side. Now reinsert your hook and we can begin doing the ribbing. So go ahead and skip 1 chain and work in that 2nd chain from the hook and make a single crochet. And continue making a single crochet in every stitch until you get to that last stitch, which will be the 5th stitch. Now your work might look like it's turned around because of how we turned our work back to the right side, and that's totally fine. You could just turn it while you're working this last chain. If you could see it's a little twisted, just turn it so it's facing you and it should be fine. Just might be hard to see. Okay, now working back into the actual glove, we're gonna slip stitch 2. So go ahead and find that first loop here. And it is the foundation chain, so it might be a little harder to see, but it's gonna be this stitch right here. And you could just slip stitch once, and then you're gonna find the stitch right next to it, which is this one right here. It's a little hard to get because the foundation chain is just 1 single loop usually. Go through and slip stitch, turn your work. And then what we're gonna do is skip those 2 slip stitches we just made. So 1, 2, and then go into the back loop only of this first stitch and make a back loop only single crochet. And now you're gonna continue going into the back loop of all those stitches until you get to the last 5th one, and we're gonna chain 1 and turn our work. And we're just gonna continue working the way we just did, slip stitching 2, turning our work, and then working 5 back loop only single crochets. And you're gonna continue doing this until you get to your starting point right here. So you go all the way around, and once you get to here, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I got to the end here and I have 2 stitches left to slip stitch into. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch into them. That's 1, and that is 2. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my work inside out because now we're gonna seam down to close it off here. And all you're gonna do is line up each corresponding stitch here, and you're gonna go into the back loop of this first stitch here. And then I like to go into the front loop of the corresponding stitch. Although this is a starting chain, so it's gonna be a foundation. So just try to find just one singular loop instead of two, but it doesn't really matter as long as you close it up properly here. So now we're just going to go ahead and yarn over and slip stitch through all of the loops. Now you're going to continue doing this down until the end. So I have about 4 more. Okay, and here is my last stitch. I actually like to go through all the loops on the last one just to secure it even more. So I go through both loops on each side and go ahead and yarn over and make your last slip stitch. And that was literally the last of my yarn. So I'm going to fasten off there. I'm probably going to just use another tail end to tie a knot to make sure it's secure. But that is your, I guess we could call it a fingerless mitten or fingerless glove. And once you finish, you could go ahead and weave in those 2 ends here, or if you didn't weave in as you went, then go ahead and do that. And I actually don't have my brush on me. I left it in New York. I'm at my boyfriend's in Maine. And I'm not gonna brush it right now, but once I do, I will provide an update. But this is the inside out, so go ahead and weave in your ends and try it on, make sure it fits. These are a great quick project if you wanted to make some quick Christmas gifts or even for Thanksgiving or someone's birthday, now that it's the winter months on the East Coast. Yeah, so if you like this tutorial, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know if there's any other types of videos you'd like to see. I'd love to get some feedback from y'all and make some videos off of that.